Hello, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is the first of two parts of a game of Kingdom, which is a game by Ben Robbins, who's also the author of Follow and Microscope. It is a story game. Second edition came out a few years ago. First edition came out when I looked to see how long it came out. I was shocked because I thought it had come out more recently, and it told me how long I've been playing and how old I am. Did not care for that at all. But this is the second edition. Some of Ben Robbins' things have been translated. I know there's some great German translations that are out there and things, so you can check on that. The basic idea, kingdom just means a community. We are all members of a community that we're going to establish. We have a premise that I'm going to talk about in a moment. We all have a stake in the settlement. We all want the settlement to continue, the community to continue, the kingdom to continue. We can't just walk away from it. One of the things is when sometimes we play Microscope, the sort of community, like the history building thing, people often set that on fire, burn it down. Kingdom is a little bit different in that we all have a kind of a shared vested interest in that. We can't just leave, and we want it to survive in some manner. Now, we are going to make that difficult for one another in play, but that's sort of the general idea of that. Just as I mentioned, this session is part of Open Hearth Gaming, which is an online gaming community. You can find out more about that at openhearthgaming.com to see about our calendar and everything that we have available there. So, continuing on with the cats, with the concept here, uh, our in our setting there was an archmage, a wizard, a big bad evil who had overrun the continent or whatever space that we had. Uh, they are dead. They've been slain by heroes. They eventually gathered coalition together, various different peoples together to lay siege to the Archmage's city and throw down the Archmage. And now that city, uh, uh, some of the forces have left, some of them have remained. The question is, for this great important capital city, what is going to become of that? Uh, we are people. Some of us may be adventurers that helped in the downfall. Some of us may be other roles in the city, but we're trying to figure out how to rebuild that city and how to make it a place to live in. And of course, is a question of the people who were here before, the people who helped out in the coalition, all of those things coming together in this. This is taken from originally a premise for drama system written by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan. I think it's called Heroes of the City in there. It's a really great premise, and I think it works very well with Kingdom. Um, we are making peace in the aftermath of that, and we're going to be customizing that based on a few prompts here at the start. So what we're going to be doing, our approach, our aim today, we're going to be doing a little more stage setting. We're be making choices about threats and locations and things like that. Then we're going to be building characters very simply. You're going to build a major character who's going to have some details and is going to have what's called a role. And then a minor character who's basically just a character that can be thrown in to scenes, as we call scenes through play. There are three roles that our characters can play, and because there are four of us, there will be duplication on those roles. Uh, when you initially build your character, you kind of decide what role you want to play. That role can change through the play of the game. The three roles are power, and the power character is the person who kind of has the authority. They will get to say what happens when we make choices, but they also get to impose things. They get to say what the kingdom does, how actions are taken. So a character from that will have that kind of role of making decisions. The next one is the perspective. The perspective is a character who can see when decisions are made, what the possible consequences are. And through play, they'll be establishing those consequences. And when we kind of resolve what's called a crossroad, we'll be deciding which of their predictions came true or not. The person who has the perspective at that point can choose that. And then the touchstone is the person who reflects what the desires of the people are. They say what the people are generally feeling. So when a touchstone character says they feel a particular way, most of the people feel that way. They establish that reaction. They tell us what the populace wants and how they're reacting to what's happening. Through play, there is the possibility of you, as I said, changing your role. You can also, in some instances, butt heads, and there's a system for fixing or fighting, resolving the decisions that another player's role makes. And if you're unhappy with what another role has put on the thing, and when I say you, I mean your character, in this case, you can overthrow that person, take on their role, and then they will choose a different role. And so there is possibility of kind of a back and forth as we go along here. So we'll build our characters, choose our roles. We'll build bonds. Everyone will build a bond with the character that is to their left in the character keeper. And so that person will build one with you. So we'll have a cycle of those bonds. We'll record those in the keeper. They just give us some role play things. And then we'll start. And we start with what is called a crossroad. We will have already established some threats to the kingdom. We'll establish 3 of those to start during the building. A crossroads is a question about what the kingdom is going to do. There is a situation and there is a binary. There is a choice to be made. Either they do X, like do they bribe the barbarians to turn away from attacking the city? That's a yes or a no question. We establish that as the terms. Yes, no. And then we play out scenes with our characters exploring their reactions to that question. We have some clocks that will be ticking, and eventually we'll tick enough that we go to the resolution of that crossroads. And at that point, the power or powers decide yes or no. And then we look at the consequences of that, and then we move forward. I'll go through that as we play, and explain that through. We'll also, of course, be taking breaks throughout just to do that. Usually try to do that on the hour. We'll see how our play works with that. The T of cats is tone or topic. A tone, I think, generally serious, but we may see how we want to play that out. You know, Lord of the Rings is a touchstone, but we can go for other fantasy as a touchstone for this. It is a world that has had, a big evil that has been overthrown, so it can be a little dark, but I don't think we're going full Warhammer grimdark necessarily, unless people really want to lead into that. While we're doing the setting, if there's something people want to have as definitely an ad or a ban or materials, we can do that. We'll also be doing a little bit of that in the safety in just a moment. One of the things I will mention, of course, is a fantasy game. I would like us to avoid bio-essentialism, meaning that particular fantasy races are always X or always Y. We all know that, but I just wanted to call that out as a particular thing we want to look towards. And And the concept of tribes, probably want to avoid that. That has a lot of baggage to that. So with that in mind, let me talk about our safety tools. They're in our character keeper. We have a set of those. We have a layered set of safety tools that we're going to be using. Uh, we have a romance matrix, basically describe your character, your particular interest in romance plots with PCs, with NPCs. You can do the drop down to set that. But our biggest safety tool, our sort of baseline safety tool, is lines and veils. I know you're all familiar with that, but we have lines, meaning a hard line. This is something we're not going to be presenting at the table. Veils being things that, if they occur, we're going to fade to black, or we're going to refer to them off screen, that they've happened there. We're not going to dwell or focus in on them. And then ask first for something that you're interested in, but you'd like a check-in before we approach that topic in play. Mind control is often one of those kinds of things that people want to check in before those kinds of plots occur. We also have an interest flag that you can mark if this is a particular topic that you'd really like to look at for play here. This is a living list, meaning that it can be added to in play. If there's something that you'd like to line or veil or ask first that's not on this list, please feel free to add to that. So we'll check in again and see what choices people have made with that. The second tool that we're using is we are using the X card, which is our reactive tool. You can gesture to do the X card, or more likely you can say X card is the easiest way to do that. You can X card something in chat, but chat often, if people aren't watching that, so it's often better to say, I want to X card that. When you X card something, the question that we might ask, the only one we should ask is, like, how far back do we need to cut on the material that you find is a problem. You can X card for material that you find objectionable, that you find problematic, that you find wildly off tone. All of those are reasons to X card something. When you X card something, you are welcome to explain why you've made that decision, but you are not required to. You're never required to defend your decision to X card or invoke a safety tool. You're welcome to, but you're not required to. I also use the X card sometimes when we have to kind of recalibrate. Maybe an interaction has gotten heated, or something else has occurred. X card is a good place kind of just to say, I think we need to stop and recalibrate. For example, if we're playing along and we've started to head towards something that we've got marked as a line or a veil or an ask first, and maybe it doesn't look like we've remembered that, the table has kind of forgotten it, you can X card to say, hey, I think we're heading towards this. We might want to stop and recalibrate and make a turn. So the X card is our reactive tool. The last one is the open door. Open door means that if you need to step away, if you need to leave, you are welcome to do that. For whatever reason, mental, physical, delivery at the door, whatever, it would be great if you could tell us that you're going to be coming back, or if not, but you're not required to. Basically, if you need to step away, feel free to step away. It also means that if we get done with this session and you realize this is not the game you were expecting, you're welcome to email and say, hey, I don't think I'm going to be back for the second part. Open door is a thing to prevent you from getting stuck in a game that you're not enjoying, because that is too much work to do. So those are the safety tools that we have in play. Now I'm going to take a slug of this coffee. because I know all for you, all heroes, you're later in the day. I'm still trying to get myself fully caffeinated here. Uh, so we are going to start with the setting, and this is kind of a collaborative thing for this first part. We're going to be making some choices based on some prompts. We're going to be establishing three threats, and then we're going to go around and everybody is going to pick a couple of locations to add to the scene, uh, and add some kinds of people. Now, if you look on the setting tab, you'll see that I do have a link to the Google Doc that has the ideas, the background, and things like that. So you should feel free to look through that when we make those choices. But you're also welcome to come up with your own to add to that. But I wanted to put that there so it'd be easy to cut and paste. Also, so now that it's in a Google Doc, I can see all my spelling errors in there, which is super annoying to me. Um, are there any questions before I get rolling forward? I should probably say so. Let's just for the sake of the first time, I have introduced myself, Lowell, pronouns he him, and I am the Open Hearth Gaming Community Manager. Let's have everybody give a quick introduction of themselves. I'm also curious if you've played other Ben Robbins games or not. So Dom, can you give us a quick statement about who you are?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Dom, he, him. I don't believe I've played any of Ben Robbins' game. I think this is the first time for me. Let me just quickly check his catalog. Maybe I have played something, but I just don't remember it. Yeah, okay. I guess so, but I don't think I've actually played any of the Ben Robbins games. This is the first. I heard
Okay.
like good things about like Microscope, for example. So I'm kind of excited to see what Kingdom all about.
Yeah. One of the things I like about Microscope and Kingdom is there is an interplay. It's very easy to build a history, and then potentially play another game that zooms in on a particular kingdom from the history. We've done that before in the community. So there's a lot of nice ties between things. Uh, I'm going to say the name wrong. Mikkel? Am I saying that?
Michele.
Michele.
Yes,
If you could please introduce yourself.
sure. My name is Michele. I use pronounce he, him. I haven't played Ben Robbins' game as far as I know. And I'm very interested in the world building uh, aspect of this game. Sounds very cool.
Awesome. Awesome. And Donna.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dunna. My pronouns are he, him. I played a couple of the other Ben Robbins games. I played Microsoft and Follow. Really interesting to talk about like what games you can zoom in on because when we played Follow, we just said let's play Shadowrun, but using Follow, the least dice thrown in a game of Shadowrun of all time. So yeah, it's really interested to see how we get on with this, especially with the kind of fully cooked or almost half baked setting to get us started with.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, so we're going to come our city. We have a set of prompts here. And this I have a question about like what the city was. Was it the original seat of the Archmage's power? Was it built for the Archmage by labor forces that had been enslaved? Was it conquered and transformed by the Archmage, or was it the remains of a kingdom that the, that the Archmage grabbed in a bid for power there at the end? Do any of those particular prompts appeal to someone that the one sounds more interesting or less interesting than the other? Dom?
So you mentioned that we could like come with our own, and I think like I really like the idea of maybe that the city was part like of another kingdom, and the Archmage like took over that kingdom as the first step in their conquest.
So Once Crown Kingdom that the Archmage essentially seized as their first step to power, the heart of their thing. Okay, folks interested in that? Does that sound interesting? Okay, so what I'm going to do is modify this. Typing in front of people, always type it wrong. Okay. So the next question is, how long ago did this occur? Are we talking a few weeks? Are we talking several months ago? Is it a year? Is it longer? Is it shorter? Is it something in between? Michele, thoughts on what would be interesting to you?
Yes. I like the idea that it was liberated a few weeks ago. So we might still see some loyal to the Archmage on the streets.
Okay. Folks good with that? Very, very in the midst of the chaos, right at the start of the rebuilding. Okay. And then there's a question of the striking thing which survived the city's liberation. And I've got some things there. Donna, any in that list there appeal to you or something else you want to add as the striking thing that has remained?
I mean, I find it difficult to resist a library in any setting. So maybe the Grand Library filled with ancient tomes and secrets.
Okay.
I wonder maybe if this ties into the first option that Dom took. Like this was maybe the reason it was selected, and maybe it's built up over the years.
Oh,
But
I like that. So they essentially conquered our Library of Alexandria at the start to make that a place of power. So the last question, and this has been put more generally to the table for input, is about the population, about the people that we're seeing there, which is mostly liberated populace with bands of representatives from the Sluthy Archmage, a mix of surviving populace, refugees from the conquest and liberating forces, mostly refugees, or primarily the forces of people who fought against the Archmage, plus a few local survivors and refugees who also fought. The kind of slight tweaks to what the population looks like. I put this open to the table. Any of those sound more interesting than others, or less interesting? In some ways, it's
Okay.
about the level of how much local versus how much sort of incoming there is. Dom?
Looking at what has been established so far, that it was a kingdom that was taken over, it was liberated a few weeks ago. I think to make it like makes sense that maybe it should be maybe like mix of the surviving populace that was maybe not slaves but kind of just like lived underneath the rule of the Archmage, the liberating forces that saved them.
Okay.
You can probably really add in the refugees that just went there. But this was like a few weeks ago. I think we could also maybe like put in some of the still loyalists to the Archmage in the mix who are maybe hiding.
Okay.
Or so that's just like what I think. I am interested to see what the rest of the table thinks about it.
So we would say something like, let's see what the rest of you think, Michele. A populated mix of the surviving populace, hidden loyalists, refugees from the conquest, and liberating forces.
yeah, I mean, I like the possibility of a fifth column like of loyalists still. I mean, maybe they've done something to prove their loyalty, but no one still quite trusts them. You know, uh, some shenanigans still afoot, right?
I like that. Questions of loyalties. Maybe they are still hoping for the Archmage to be reborn. Maybe they want to prove there's a good set of choices there. So let's go with that. So we are going to choose three threats. These are going to be things that are hanging over our city that may shape the crossroads that we choose, the choices that we're going to make. And if you look in that kingdom document, I have a set of threat ideas, but you're also welcome to come up with your own. And I'm going to have each of you pick one. Michele, uh, what would you like to establish as a first threat that is going to be hanging over our kingdom? Is something from that list, or something of your own, or you want to modify something from the list?
Checking the list. A second. So I'm really into the idea that came up of loyalists or government officials um, that we are unsure if they're loyal, of they're not. So yeah, I guess some loyalists to the Archmage still exist and
Okay.
work to undermine the city and even resurrect their master.
Okay. Awesome. So we've got that as our first threat. Donna, what would you like second threat? Something from the list or something that you'd like to add on your own?
Yeah, I wonder. There's this list here, this item on the list. Other forces who fought against the Archmage resent the city's survival and suspect it contains secrets and wealth. Forces may be massing to attack. So I wonder if this is almost about that library of secrets and occult power. Like, did they believe it's corrupting, or that whoever takes over will become the new tyrant or whatever? So, yeah.
I like that. That's a good one. It plays into the details that we've established so far. And Dom, what would you like as our third threat?
Kind of to build up with the other two threats is to the fact that people don't really know who to trust, and probably just the massing forces have art probably in the nations looking up at this. I think that perhaps a threat could be that also due to the fact that it's been just a few weeks since the Archmage was overthrown. Maybe we can have a threat of basically economical hardship throughout the city. People can't really afford much, can't really find too many useful things, and need to kind of scavenging build up that community. But there's also the threat of who can you trust, what can we do. So it kind of, yes, it probably would be that in this organization.
Okay. So maybe let's say drought, disorganization, and you said mistrust.
Yeah, mistrust. I
Okay.
think it would make kind of sense with if we establish that people would be not too quick to trust each other in this city.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we've got those three. Those are the three things that are going to be hanging over our kingdom as issues to consider. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go around twice, and each of us is going to add a location. These aren't necessarily all the locations in the city, but they represent places when we go to call scenes that we can refer to, add to the description of, and so on. So I have some ideas that I wrote down here. Um, let's see. I'm going to look. I'm making the pick first. Okay. So I always love this. So I'm going to add to our location list from that set of things, the baths. I always love that sort of Roman style thing. I like the idea that we have these baths that during the time of the library and scholarship and something, this was a place of meeting and talking and so on. And of course, that has fallen in the time the Archmage has done, and now maybe they're being restored as a place to socialize across those strata and those lines. Michele, what would you like for your first location pick? Something from that list, or you can come up with something on your own.
Yes, still following the same idea. I'd like some kind of place for where the city administration is still going on, which could be the Hall of Summons at the beginning.
So maybe the Hall of Summons, but more of a place of the
Yeah,
civil administration.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, more like public officials and everyday administrative work is still going on somehow. You know, the machine keeps turning.
So this is a civil administration that was in operation during the Archmage's time and has continued on. It has been kept at least partially in place and is trying to keep things together. I like that. Donna?
Um, I mean, I think I want to like the other side of the administration is maybe the fear that held populaces in line. So I'm drawn to the Gallows Gate, where the outer road pierces the city wall, still framed by the various awful devices and signs the Archmage used to show his power. I imagine, these things like uh, gibbet cages and such with skeletons or remains or something of people who held out or tried to hold out against the Archmage, spies and such.
That symbol that hasn't yet been cleared. It's only been a few weeks. Will we clear it? Will we not? Like, what does that mean to us? Yeah, I like that a lot. Dom?
I kind of like the idea of perhaps like there's like a black market in the city that kind of came to paradise with like the Archmage, and perhaps in the current situation where the city is how it is now, that the black market maybe has just like kind of like expanded in its influence.
Black market expanded in influence. So it was a site of resistance to the Archmage before.
I don't think it was like necessarily resistance against the Archmage. I think it was maybe just one of those. It was like probably like a bloody regime, so a lot of people sold. Probably saw that was like outlawed by the Archmage in the black market. And I'm thinking that the growing influence is perhaps now that the Archmage is gone, probably a lot of maybe like the weapons and perhaps magical items that the Archmage possessed found their way down to the black market.
Okay. So black market expanded influence, sold outlawed things, magic weapons and magic items have found their way there. Okay. And then Michele, a second location you'd like to have on the list?
So I think we might need the shackles, the dungeons of the Archmage.
Okay, another center of the symbology of the Archmage, the dungeons, and it's where the forces have put the captured people and so on. So a tough place. Donna?
I mean, I think I have to choose the Repository of Silences, one of the few remaining libraries. Maybe this is where all the secrets go to go to rest.
Okay. And Dom.
I feel like I'm in like far more like that's a positive place besides the bats. I think maybe like the Edenel ear could potentially be that like just like a neutral to the ground that was established by kind of like the people that nothing's going to go down there. This is a place of we can all just kind of like forget about the troubles for a bit and they just like sit down for a drink.
Okay. So some version of the Red Nail Inn, or do you want a different name for that, or what do you think?
I'm not picking the name, but I do think maybe it should actually be like a mercenary gathering place. It should kind of just be maybe like this place that's kind of gathered goodwill among the populace, and has now been kind of declared by the multiple like, factions in the city that this place is kind of like off limits for like any scrabbling. It should kind of be like a place for just sitting down and just enjoying the
So
moment.
a park, a theater, a statue, a fountain, what kind of place do you think that is?
Let's go with theater.
Okay. So we have a theater, a place of entertainment, possibly shuttered or possibly used for Archmage propaganda plays, that has now become a space that all of the neutral factions, all the factions have declared as this is where we can come and talk and neutral ground. And then let's see. Well, I always like the weirdness, so we'll put the blue pool in there. Uh, so a great and still pool of water, deep and dark. There's essentially the Archmage working chamber and a great pool there. The next thing that we're going to kind of come up with is basically the kinds of people that might be here. And we just want to brainstorm just a quick list, two or three from each of us to have kind of a working list of folks that we might add to that. Like, for example, a retired general from the invading forces. And let's say a desperate researcher, people who've been cut off from the library for some time and have come here in hopes of getting access so they can finish their thesis or whatnot. Donna, have you add if you have one, two, three. We'll kind of go around until we get like a dozen list here.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of I like the idea of like someone who manages the baths, maybe knows more than anyone suspects, but also has basically seen no change in their clientele or the things that are talked about or the people
So managers
between
of
the
businesses.
bath, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically, given that's one of our good locations. Um, yeah.
Okay, we'll come back around. Dom, a kind of person, a kinds of characters that we might see on screen that you want to put here.
I think maybe like having like some like priests uh, could be interesting. Like the cities now liberated, and I think maybe like priests like from nearby regions would probably like, come to the city to try and help like guide the impoverished populace and like help them out.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good kind of character to have. Michele?
I was thinking maybe a senator or some kind of official who is still in place, and they used to rule with the Archmage, and perhaps it's unclear if they were happy with it or not.
Okay. So senator or official still in place, uncertain loyalty. I'll add, I think just because we have all this, where I think there should be some loitering mercenaries, people who joined on to the fight for coin, got here, maybe they've been paid, and now the question is where do they go now that they've been demobbed? Where what happens next? Donna?
Yeah, I mean, I had been thinking along those lines, but also on the maybe it's the flip side, like soldiers from who were like in the real factions who are like waiting to get paid, waiting around, like looking at the stores of grain dwindling and going like, when can we go home, right?
Okay.
Maybe it's the other side of that mercenary coin.
Okay. Uh, Dom, another one we want to add is another kind of person that we're going to see.
So going back to like the first attempt of that the city was like a once without kingdom. I'm not sure how long the Archmage has been powered, but maybe like a member of like the original like Roth family, or maybe a descendant, if the Archmage has been ruling for a long time, is still around in the city. Maybe was like kept at the Archmage's side, maybe kind of like as like a puppet to
Mm-hmm.
like placate the populace.
I dig that. Let's each add one more. Let's see. I think maybe revolutionaries, those kinds of people who were the internal struggle against the Archmage, and now the city is liberated. What happens to them? What do they want to do? I think that's a good archetype. Michele, one more.
I like the first prompt that we have, prophesize heroine.
Oh, okay.
We're thinking as some kind of Joan of Arc character, and she probably led the rebellion, and she's an inspiring figure.
Excellent. I like that. That adds another dynamic to the kind of revolution that occurred here. Donna, Another one you want to add to our list?
I think we need some black marketeers. Um, Wondering how high the prices are going to go, you know?
Yeah. And Dom?
So we kind of established that the Grand Library filled with ancient tomes and secrets survived the liberation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking maybe one of the kind of people who should be like the head librarian of the Grand Library. And perhaps if that is maybe okay with it, maybe the head librarian has been like the same for as long as anyone can remember, like even in like ancient like records of the uh, kingdom.
Librarians, head librarian, continuity of management, that they've survived the Archmage's control of the city here. Awesome. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we are actually going to create our characters. We've got our list of character ideas. We can go with those. We can go with something else. So what you're going to do is there are those three roles that I described to you: the power, who has authority; the perspective, who understands the kingdom; and the touchstone. Sorry, the perspective, who understands the kingdom and can kind of see where things are going; and the touchstone, who understands the people. Now, you can go with an archetype, and then maybe like the retired general maybe seems like it would be power, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're touchstone or perspective. We can kind of flip those things around. Um, so we're going to decide that, and then we're going to say who our character is and kind of come up with a description of that. That's sort of our first thing. So the I'm going to grab this yellow column, since yellow is color I play in board games. I'll put my name up there. And I think that I would like to, I think I'm going to go with the perspective. I'm going to go with the perspective character for my choice for which role I want to have my character start with. Dom, which of those three roles do you want to have your play in? And again, we can duplicate up. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with any of the three, to be honest. Like, if like anyone has like any strong feelings for any other, they can like pick those, and then I can just pick what I think we might be.
We're going to have duplicates, so
Yeah.
so I am going to come back to you in a second and make you pick.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
want to avoid the situation if we have three people who want kind of like the same main role.
Sure. Donna, what would you like to start with? Again, knowing that your character may change role to
Yeah,
play.
yeah. I am inclined towards power.
Okay. Excellent.
How long it'll last till being usurped.
Absolutely. And Michele.
Um, I'm gonna go with perspective.
Okay. Excellent. And that drop down should change. When you change that, it should change that statement below that, and then down at the on row 21, you'll see there's also a description of like how those actions work, the role actions are for that particular character role. Dom?
Yeah, in that case, I'll take the touchstone.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes here to think about who they want as their character. And then we'll kind of come around and introduce them. Yes.
Do we choose between the ones that we proposed or new ones?
You can choose from there. You can choose new ones, whatever you
Okay.
feel you're most interested in playing. And so you put your name where it says character pronouns. You've got a little box for description, for physical description, but I've also got a space if you want to find a picture. Go down the Pinterest rabbit hole. And there's also kind of a who are you to summarize. And that's probably where I'm going to start, is kind of figuring that out since I'm not sure yet.
Are you thinking of picking one of those options just so we don't double up, Michele, or?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, are you thinking of picking, like, say, the prophesied heroine that you suggested? Like, that's on my short list, so I don't want us to double up unless we want a very
Um,
confusing setup.
n no, I was actually thinking something else.
Okay.
So you can go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I've got like two ideas for potential characters, and I'm not sure which one to go with.
Okay.
I guess I can like say like the shorthand what I'm thinking of these two characters, and then I think I might do it after the table to see like which one do we think might be more interesting in this setting. So one idea I had was maybe like for like a merchant character that can like deals in like dealing with variables, but also in like rare and arcane artifacts. That was basically like one idea. The other idea was perhaps like a soldier that worked for the Archmage. Like I have an idea that perhaps this soldier was just like an ordinary soldier at the beginning, but I imagine that the Archmage would use magic in the conquest, so maybe this soldier was like one of the people that was like taken by the Archmage and can like turn into like a chimera, like half a month to like soldier that kind of became like an elite,
Okay.
like a guard unit. And like after the war, kind of just like defected from like the Archmage faction, and there was no longer any Archmage to serve. So it's
Okay.
like the two ideas that I currently have. And I can imagine them both working for the Touchstone, with the merchant being in touch with, like, with the people as they do like sell stuff around the city. And I'm thinking the soldier also because they're probably like stationed in a city they've been about, they can like see the attitudes and feelings that the people have and probably like represent those.
Yeah. Yeah. I think either of those works. Donna, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of doing that prophesied heroine.
I think that's a
I
great.
think that would be very interesting in that position of power, just because she was the figurehead. So yeah,
Okay.
and I think maybe Dom's idea of that soldier who was on the other side is like a really striking conflict
Oh, I
to
like that. Michele?
I was thinking a former mayor who made hard bargains in dark times.
I like that. Um, and then what am I going to choose here? Do, do, do. Oh, it's just goofy enough. It keeps catching my eye. I think I'm going to do that former bard, the wandering bard who decided to make this city their great project. Uh, as a character there. Yeah. So I'll give you some time here to kind of come up with how you want to visually do it, or find a picture, kind of expand that description, um, and settle that in, and then we'll go around. Also figure out a name, which is the hard part.
Well, you did say it was a fantasy game, so it can't be that hard.
Yeah, you say that, yeah, but find a good picture.
I feel like the soldier idea could work well with Danas and Michael's character this as well. I think I might go for that character.
Okay.
I always forget to insert an image. It's image insert, image in the cell, or insert over the cell.
In the cell is the easiest. All right. So let's go around and do a quick introduction of how we're imagining our characters, names, what they're like, and so on. Uh, I will go ahead and start since uh, uh, I'm excited about my character. So I went with Skoa High Press. This is my perspective character. Uh, she, her, for the pronouns. I imagine that we down to the far south we have the our classic Viking cold kingdoms down there, and she comes from there. So for a bard, more athletic and built than you might expect, has a variety of instruments with her. Um, she has wandered and kind of followed along, and she's not particularly her particular style of music, which I imagine as bardic metal, there is not particularly beloved elsewhere. And so part of the reason that she is here is to, like, given that the city has suffered, maybe there's not a great music culture. She thinks that maybe she can start a whole new movement here, and that's why she has come. So that is that. I think her role as a perspective is the fact that she has traveled in lots of places, has seen how things have fallen out from various decisions, and that's given her the ability to kind of see where things are going and to make that kind of judgment on things. So that's my character. Uh, Donna?
Yeah, so my character is Ellie. She, her. I think this is the shortened version of a much grander name, but one like maybe is used officially, but she doesn't like. So I've positioned her not just as this prophesied heroine, but as the last scion of an anointed line, brought forth in this kind of final war as the only hope of overthrowing the Archmage. I think also maybe uh, some kind of trauma reactions after having been hunted down by the Archmage's assassins for years. And I think what I said earlier was like prepared for the war of liberation, but not necessarily to rule afterwards. But that's where she finds herself.
How
Like
old how old do you picture her as?
I am maybe like late 20s, early
Okay.
30s. So not like just a figurehead. Maybe I don't know how long. Again, this war has lasted a couple of years, maybe.
Okay. So let's establish
Um,
that. Like the war has lasted a couple of years.
okay. Um, yeah, and maybe there's some like maybe like oh you have to marry and form this new. Uh, um, we have to save the succession, right, or whatever the phrase is going to be. We have to stability, right?
Awesome. Uh, what we're going to do, by the way, so after we do these introductions, is we're going to uh, come around and have everybody choose a couple locations their character be found out, and then after that, everybody's going to write up a bond with the character that is to their left, and we'll come around to do that. Michele, tell us about your character.
Yes. Um, so his name is Desiderius, and I I think I slightly went down the rabbit hole of this idea of like late Roman government, and I'm thinking he's always been a citizen in the city. He was born and raised there, and he's from some minor nobility, minor patrician family. So a noble, but without any perspective or not much money. And he comes as a very dull and boring person at first glance. And from one side he is, because he's a government official. And but with his work, he probably came to know the real problem of the population and the feelings, the sentiment of the population. And that's where his role of perspective will come out, probably. And rather than a mayor per se, I was thinking more like maybe it's a huge city, so a governor for a district, some official who is in charge of everyday life in the city.
Okay, I like it. And Dom.
Okay, my perspective character is going to be Ketvad, they, them. They were formerly human, soldier in the Archmage's army that was selected to become a part of this magic infused chimera-esque soldiers. So it's the elite unit in the Archmage's army. I imagine that they would probably not necessarily be in charge of guarding the Archmage, but the most trusted to take care of business within the army. And this is something the other as a touchstone comes down to that they will send a lot into the city to get rid of dissidents and also keep an eye on the nobility and stuff left in the city. And through their work, they've seen how the people live, how they think, how they act, and that's made them more in tuned with the people. Yeah, I think that after the Archmage fell, Casper just left the loyalists, because with the Archmage gone, they no longer have any reason to necessarily follow orders, just finding their own path. Now as this monstrosity, so to say. I think also physically they were altered, they have horns at the top of their head. And yeah, as for the age, I think that will depend on maybe how long the Archmage has ruled. The Archmage ruled for a couple of years. It was a century or a century.
I know the war has been a couple of years. So how long do you think the Archmage held the city?
I don't want to impose anything on the party, but I want to say perhaps it was the Archmage maybe held the seat for a long time.
Like a few decades? Or longer?
Yeah. I think I'm kind of into the idea that the Archmage was this grand powerful mage that could potentially extend, prolong their life. So I'm thinking maybe a century or so.
Okay.
That this Archmage held power. But that is if just the table can also agree with this idea.
What do you guys think? A century of the Archmage's rule?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Especially, I think it gives also a little bit of flavor to the city, right? If this was the first city he took, then it explains the influence that he still has here, right?
Yeah. Okay. So a century, this final war of liberation took a couple of years, happened just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. In that case, I want to say that perhaps Catford was maybe selected to become this chimera-esque soldier, probably maybe in the first 20 or so years of the Archmage's reign. So I want to say that perhaps that puts Catford maybe in the 60, 70 years age range. But I think like altered enough that they can like throw away like the whole gender identity and like age identity.
Excellent. So now each of us is going to come up with our like how we picture how we're connected, how we feel about the person essentially to our left. For example, I'm going to write a bond for myself with Kethvar. Ellie will write it with me. Destarius will write it with Ellie, and then Kethvar will write it with Destarius. And then you can see I've got these bond boxes. Uh, you'll then copy over how the other people feel kind of beside just so you have that as a reference. Um, so take a minute or two to kind of write that, and then we'll come around and we'll check and make sure that people are good with that.
So just make sure in the band to the left, we put in how we feel towards their character.
Yep. Give you another minute, and then we'll kind of go around and say what we think and make sure everybody's cool with the choices. So, Dom, here's what I'm thinking for Skoa's reaction, kind of bond connection to Kethvar. I think that she has mixed feelings, especially for someone who clearly like knows the people. Uh, but I think that she's suspicious of someone who only changed their allegiance after the Archmage fell. But also, I think she has in her travels has seen other people who've been changed, like yourself, and seen how much they've gone through and suffered. So I think she's very, very uncertain. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, that sounds okay with me.
Okay. Ellie?
So I have that maybe we spend some time together, like drinking or chatting or whatever, and that Skoa is like pretty personable in that regard, and maybe there's no baggage like Ellie gets with other people who are hanging around with her. But then I wonder if Skoa is also like writing this epic
Oh, absolutely.
concept album.
Yes.
let's say.
It's gonna be a double vinyl. It's gonna be great, you know.
Yeah, which I don't think Ellie is too keen on, right? But
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. And this Darius.
So what I was thinking is that Ellie showed Desiderius that it is possible to bring some good into the world, and to lift your head and not yield anymore to the heartlessness of power. And even though this could put a public official in a dangerous position.
Does that work for you, Ellie?
Yeah, that sounds good. Is this like, does Ellie see that this guy who used to be a notable is trying to live up to this new regime, or is it kind of his secret kind of
Yeah, as I was thinking, yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if I missed the point in writing Bonds, but what I was thinking is that he's inspired after, because we said that it's this city has been under the Archmage for a very long time, so before he was even born. And so now he has this inspiring figure, and
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice. And then Cathvar.
Okay, so I was thinking is that Kesfad being kind of the elite unit soldier, kind of tasked like with keeping like the kind of the order in the city, kind of maybe like sort of like secret police, but not so secret as well. The elite like units maybe like had to periodically like check in on the nobles and governing officials in the city, make sure that they stayed in line, and that Kesfad was one of the like soldiers kind of assigned to make sure that Desiderius like stays in his lane and doesn't cause too much trouble for the Archmage. And I think that perhaps during their observation of Desiderius, maybe like the two of them like had some like chatter, which I think maybe was like dull and idle, but kind of like gave Kate like some sense of like maybe like some normalcy, and that like observing Desiderius' work in their like this like region of the city has learned a lot about like the history and like the people of the city, and through that this has kind of like gotten like the respect of Kietvart, so to say. Does that work with you, Mikael?
I love it.
Awesome. All right. The last thing we're going to do before we take our break, and then we're going to come back and do Crossroads, is pick two locations that your character could often be found at. These are more of a way to kind of hang some scenes on. So I think that for me, and we can double up on these, so it's all good. Certainly, the theater is one of the places that Scoa can be found at. And then looking at the list, oh gosh. let's go against type. I think that there's a certain attractiveness to her of the blue pool. It has the proper epic ambiance and feel that she wants to bring to her music. There, it's dark, and she wants to see how she can convey that in her music. Uh, what about for Ellie?
I think the Hall of Summons is an obvious one. Um, and then I wonder. I mean, I'm looking for something that's kind of out of that official capacity, and it's either the theater or the baths. I don't know. I mean, I think uh, some overlap will be good. So maybe the theater is
Okay,
where we go.
good place for neutral factions. What about for Desdarius?
So I think we can find this Darius at the Hills of Summon as well,
Hmm.
and surely at the bath.
Okay, yeah, good
Very navigating
spot.
place.
Yeah, I like those. And what about for Kethvar?
I think for Kit, we can find like at the black market and probably like the depository of silences. I think probably would be the two locations where you can probably like find a Kit located.
Excellent. Uh, so we're going to take a break for 10. We're going to come back. When we come back, we're also going to add a minor character, a character that we just have as kind of an NPC with a descriptor. So think about that during the break. And then once we kind of get that set, we're going to do the first crossroads. And Donna, I'm going to make you choose that first crossroads, the first question that we're going to deal with. I do have a list of examples there. In the thing, we'll talk about what makes a good crossroads. But let's take 10, so till about 35 after, and then we'll come back. So Dom, tell us about the minor character that you came up with.
So as I mentioned, I had the idea for two potential characters, so I decided, you know what, I can use the added idea for a minor character. So I made Skrit, she heard, which I kind of think would be like a jittery and erratic, like catfolk merchant with a keen eye for the arcane, sells like forbidden knowledge, cursed trinkets, like their scrolls, and quite capricious, like has like kind of like little mood swings where she like change up like the prices and demands for her wares. But her wares are kind of like pretty good and probably not acquired legally.
All right. I came up with Valdo. I imagined this character as an artificer and creator of magic items. I like the idea that they kind of followed along with the army as it came, offering their expertise in, sharpening magic weapons and all of that kind of thing. And now they're in the city and they're trying to figure out if they should set up a stall or if they should, if there's some way that they could get a hold of things and make a buck elsewhere. And but they know how to create things and assess things. Uh, and Donna.
Yeah, so I'm as a minor character creating Farak, who is the librarian of the Repository of Silences. Um, treats all who gain entry to their realm with respect, but on the other hand, chooses what exactly of the collection they will be able to access. Um,
Excellent.
and, and the detail, I think, maybe was Dom had established was that they were, around in this library since time immemorial, maybe even going back to before the Archmage arrived. So,
Oh, nice. Michele?
So I was thinking of this character, their name Oswald, and they used to be the usher in the chambers or the palace of the Archmage. And after the city fell, no one actually paid attention to them or care what they were doing. So really a background character with probably a lot of knowledge of intrigue.
Insight, knows where
And
where the bodies are
yeah,
buried.
yes, and they're probably still opening and closing doors in the palace, and no one cares.
I like it. All right. So let me talk about how play actually works. We start with a crossroad. If there's already a crossroad in play that we haven't resolved, we kind of skip over that. And this is for your turn. You will call a scene involving your main character. You can say where it is at, who else is there, and what is going on. You kind of establish that. And it's about painting kind of a clear picture. And it should revolve around the crossroad, a reaction to, or a sense of how they feel, or what we're seeing as the discussion of it. When in doubt, pick a character that you would want to just have a conversation about the question of the crossroad. And we'll play out the scene. You can use your role at that point. If you have your major character in the scene, once a scene is done, we will check a box, and I'll talk about that when we come to that point in the thing. And then we'll have a chance for the other players to do a brief reaction from their major characters to maybe what has happened in that scene, if necessary. Essentially, they can reflect on that or on something else that is going on. And then we keep going around until one of the three tracks is filled. Usually that's the Crossroads track. And then we resolve what happens there. Again, what's going to go on in terms of our powers that we have here. The role action, the power during a scene can throw people in jail, can give them a raise is the example that it gives. It can apply those things. They say they do something and they make it happen to describe how they make that happen. Another player's minor or major character doesn't have to obey them, but if they don't, there's usually some punishment that gets meted out in the storyline. The second thing is the perspective. The perspective makes predictions about what is going to happen if a path is chosen. If you look on the Crossroads Crisis Time tab, you'll see that there's the yes and no. And when the perspective makes a prediction, we'll write that in under yes or no, but we'll also make sure that we put the character who made that prediction's name by it, so that we kind of note and record that. And then the last thing is our touchstone. They get to express an attitude, express how the kingdom is feeling, get to describe how the populace is reacting to where things seem to be going, what things seem to be happening there. Um, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose a crossroad. And Donna, I kind of put this in your lap for what you think would be an interesting crossroads. Got some examples there. Uh, these are, as I said before, kind of yes, no questions with interesting potential consequences. What are you leaning
Yeah.
in towards?
Um, so I wanted to address the idea of loyalists still within the city. And instead of it being a general one, I think this example, execute the Archmage's vizier who supplied information vital to her to bring down her former master, is exactly where I want to go.
Okay.
Because we have a situation which has kind of two sides about it. If this vizier helped us to take the city, then there's certainly a reason not to do it. But I think also I want to tie this into the threat of people outside the city who uh, still bear a grudge, and maybe it's that political pressure which might force you to do this thing, right?
Okay. So we have some stakes
Yeah.
there. Um, let's let's give that vizier a name. What do you want to name the vizier?
Um, what do I want to name the vizier? Let us go with Ashar. We put them in the NPCs tab.
Okay.
Yeah.
So execute the Archmage Vizier Ashar supplied information vital to bring down her former master. So we've got that as a question here. Uh, Dom, Michele, are you good with that as the okay? Next thing we're going to do is I'm actually, and I encourage all of us to do this, set our names in the chat thing. I'm going to put the major character's name and pronouns as that there. Otherwise, I will forget what people's names are. That's just the way I work. Um, so, Donna, we actually start with you. You've created this crossroad. We've got that for us. And before we actually go to calling scenes, like, what do you think is happening now? Like what do we kind of bird's eye view of the city when we come in? We're a couple weeks, few weeks after the resolution. What do you think we're going to be seeing on screen? You're muted.
Thanks, Lowell. I think we see maybe this, actual bird's eye view of the outskirts of the city, and we see the some of the armies which have been hanging around since, and they are like ready to move. But of course, are they moving away or are they moving towards the city? Is the question. And I think we see a delegation from those armies in at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in fact it is at the gallows gate. Inside because they're friends, right? But the reception has them here so that we can see the remains hanging from the gibbets and all of this terrible stuff.
So there's tension going on. Let me ask you this. The vizier, do we think that they are under house arrest? Do you think that they're walking around free? Do you think that they're down in the dungeons? Like, where are they? So we have a frame for that and where we're kind of starting from.
I think they are kind of under house arrest, right?
Okay.
We have um, whoever's ruling the city has hedged their bets because they helped, but also you can't just let them go free, right? So they are not quite in the dungeons they're shackled to a wall somewhere, but they don't have the run of the place.
Okay. So I'm going to have you call a scene. You'll with your major character, Ellie, can be with a one or more major NPCs with minor NPCs, and tell us kind of who you want to have, and then where do you think the scene wants to take place?
Yeah, so I wonder if it is a good place to see Ellie and Desiderius together. Maybe she is seeking his advice as someone who knows what went on. Like, I think she is trying to get a sense of whether this betrayal was just the Vizier saving her skin or whether it represents a genuine change of heart.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, and we may as well have it in the Hall of Summons, where the official business goes on. Um, and I like to think that it's maybe not in the hall, maybe like in a hallway, right, where we can maybe talk without having our voices carry quite so far, because I think Ellie wants to keep this a little bit under wraps.
Okay. Darius, does that work for you? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to let you set the scene and go ahead.
Yeah, so in these kind of hallways, often in like medieval palaces or whatever, we have, busts or portraits of previous holders, but I think there's only been one archmage in 100 years. And I don't know if those have been destroyed or like, are there blank plinths and torn down pictures? What do you think, Michele? Is this like regime change palace, or is this still somehow we haven't gotten around to it?
No, I think the palace is pretty much still as it were before the liberation, and and I think you're right to say that it's not. There are probably not images or pictures, paintings of all the rulers, but probably there used to be even before my time. And so Desiderius starts a burrowing list of, my grandfather told me that this palace used to have all these paintings, and I start to tell you paintings of all kings and queens and rulers. And you'll have to stop me.
Yeah. And I think like I stop you like under, like maybe there is one portrait or one statue of the Archmage that is still not being looked at, and I look at him out of the corner of my eye, and I don't give a snarl or anything, but I definitely, my lip curls, like there's a disgust there, there's a hatred, there's maybe a little bit of fear still. There's a Darius. I need to talk to you about like, I shouldn't call her the Vizier because she is not. Ashara.
Yes.
Her life is in my hands as I see it. People are demanding her head. And where I come from, that means actual decapitation, not just, a stern letter. What's her deal?
If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have our city back, but you're right. I hear what do people say? They want someone's head to fall. There's distress, there is discontent. And if you ask me, I met her, but I don't know her personally. But I don't think you get to be Vizier if you're not, how shall I say, into it. So I don't know what her deal is now, but she was happy for sure under the Archmage.
I mean, the thing I want to be wary of is setting a precedent where anyone who stood on this side of the wall gets it. Just because.
You're too wise for being a soldier. You're right. That's a conundrum. People demand compensation, but we cannot start a new era, a new kingdom, killing people, cutting heads off.
Well, I'm sure that will go down a treat with the people still hefting spears outside the gate. I'm just saying, I'll go out and I'll say, I've talked to people who've been living here for a while, and they say she's good. She's a good person. I'm just not looking forward to that conversation.
Perhaps there is a way. She needs to be, if you were to spare her life, you still need to make an example, I think. She needs to be excluded from power. Property seized, perhaps, and change into something good for the populace.
You see, that's the kind of bureaucratic detail I would never have thought of. Are you happy with that scene, Michaela? I think we can probably cut that there. Yeah.
So to kind of go into the mechanical bit here, either during the scene or immediately after that scene, if there's a thing either of you want to do with your role, for example, Donna, if you want to then throw Desiderius into prison or move the Vizier to prison or do any of those kinds of things would be a thing that you could do with your role power. And Desiderius, one of the things you could do is, as the perspective, you could establish what one of the consequences is of making that yes or no choice. So do either of you want to use your role power there?
And just to understand a little, like, do we get other scenes based on this Crossroads, or is this kind of?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to go around.
Okay.
We're at minimum we're going to have 5 scenes.
Yeah.
For this, yeah.
So I guess from my point of view, I would think I'm not sure I want to shoot my bolt early. Like, I think it would be interesting to see another side of this conundrum before that decision gets made in the fiction. But
sure.
I can, if you want me to like signal what I'm thinking of doing, I can do that too. Just so.
But we can bring it out on a later scene. One of the things is the role of the power is one that has the big authority at the end, but also throughout they're probably the one that like is least like exercising that throughout. So I think that's fair. Darius, do you want to make a prediction about like what the consequences are?
I think so.
Okay.
I think for if if Ashar is executed, in the long run there will be discontent for the amount of bloodshed. And people won't trust the new government to be better than the last.
No, we'll degrade trust in government. Okay. And let me get the word wrap in there on that. Okay, so we have one prediction on the table. Again, when we come to the end of the crossroad, we'll check and see whether that's in fact true, whether in fact that holds true. But that prediction is kind of out there as a sword hanging above us in this. Now that the next thing that we do after kind of checking in, finalizing on powers is we do reactions. You can, and this is optional, you can narrate what their main or minor character thinks or does about what's happening, even if they weren't in the scene. Basically, this should be a brief minute or less kind of reaction that we get, maybe gives us a thing. If our character was in the scene, how they're thinking about it afterwards, or another one, how they're hearing about it. And this is purely optional. Ellie, do you want to do a reaction sort of post scene?
I think maybe we see Ellie sit on whatever's passing for the throne or her seat in the hall, and like obviously doing some other stuff, the bureaucracy that she gives out about having to do, but it's very evident that like she is thinking about this single decision above all.
I like that. And actually, I kind of did something a little bit out of order here. After we're done with that main scene, you get to check a box. You can, and let me get mechanical, because it's a little bit different than it was before for me. You can check the next box on the crossroad. So if you see, we've got 5 boxes there. If you think that's generally the thing. The other option is you can also check a box on crisis. If you think the scene that we just did has significantly increased the tumult and terror and things like that in the kingdom, often where there's been a fight or something like that. Crisis also gets checked when there are overcome actions, disagreements on things. So keep that in mind. So Ellie, are you good with checking a crossroads box?
Yeah, I don't think it quite elevates to a crisis, that
Okay.
scene. So yeah.
Darius, did you want to do a reaction? Either with your main character or your minor character?
I'd love to do one with my minor character.
Okay.
As we see Darius and Ellie whisper in a empty corridor, probably they're not aware they've been heard by Oswald, who is mindlessly checking the doors and everything is tidy. And yeah, we see them listening to the conversation and with some kind of carelessness, and then they probably nod and walk away.
Nice. Cathar, do you want to do a reaction with your?
So, so I think that perhaps we see like in like deep dark market, like rumors and whispers about the former with fate and the balance, and probably maybe like someone mentions that they are considering letting the wizard leave, but give them like another punishment. And I think like maybe you just see Kate like just like him kind of just like back against the wall, just kind of like be like a sight and just like muttered under their breath, spineless.
Nice. And I think we see briefly Scoa is like writing out lyrics and tweaking and trying to figure out like very clearly how to present the vizier in the text of the epic, like because there's several different directions, and I think supremely frustrated by that, by not being able to decide. So we go on to the next scene. Desdarius, like have you call a scene either with your major character or your minor character?
Let me think. Sorry, do we have to choose a crossroad?
So
Are we
we're
doing
still
another crossroad?
on that crossroad. We're going to stay on
Still the
this
same
one
one.
until
Okay.
we resolve it.
Okay. Well, it would be interesting to have a scene at the end of the day, completing the administration work that Desdarius has to do. They are they didn't realize they were joined by Captor, and they probably start talking about the history of the city, what used to be there, and if that's okay with you, you probably realize something is on Desiderius' mind, and asking what it is, I'll probably trust you enough to expose to you the conundrum of the execution of the vizier. And yeah, for setting the scene, I guess we are in this large room, full of scrolls with names and taxes and numbers, and just finishing up. And can I confide with you? Something has been on my mind, my dear Captor.
I've got a feeling I might know what you're talking about, but nonetheless, go ahead.
You're full of surprises as always, my friend. As you might know, Ellie and the new people in charge have a tough call to make. about the vizier. She helped them. She helped us getting our city back. But she was the second in command of the Archmage, so they're supposed to cut her head off. But I don't think it's a good idea.
And why don't you think it's a good idea? Explain your reasoning. Walk me through your thought process.
Well, there's been enough bloodshed, don't you think? The people are tired, aren't they? What do you see in the street? Or what do you see on people's faces?
The people are tired. They're hungry. They're trying to make ends meet. The regime of the Archmage has taken its toll on them. And it is precisely because of that that I disagree on your stance. I think in order to mark the end of this era, the Vizier has to fly. She did help. And I'm not just calling for her execution just because I was in the army before, just because I defected after, if I can even say defect, once your sire is dead. But as you said, she was the second in command. She had control much more. And still, she beat the hand that fed her. Was to say she won't do so again. A snake has shown you her fangs, and you want to invite her into your home?
Your reasonment you're perfectly right. I mean, there's nothing I can say in her defense. And but when will it stop? You and me both have worked some way or another for the Archmage in ruling the city, in being within their troop.
We were foot soldiers, real grunts. Nothing more than that. There's a we had no choices in what we did. We were told orders and we were expected to follow. The Vizivir, on the other hand, was helped come up with the orders. She gave them just as much as the Archmage. No matter how you see it, the Wizard, even if you strip her of any official title, is still a symbol of the Archmage's regime. And I don't think the people will ever truly feel safe or that the regime is over until both the Wizard and anyone else that played a substantial role is gone.
You actually made a very good point. Both Ketvar and Dom. I think Desiderius is still concerned by the bloodshed. But he's starting to think that he's starting to lean to your reasonment. So you might be right, my friend. She's probably too corrupted, and she's beyond recover. But still, I fear if we don't put an end to the bloodshed, the people will be unhappy.
The people will be unhappy either way. I do not envy your position. Politics and all your administrative work never were my strong suit. Can't say I ever really understood it, even after all the time watching you. Ultimately, the decision is for you're the new leaders to decide. It won't have much effect on me. But do just keep in mind that the people who suffered under the Archmage might not take too kindly to its legacy's continued existence.
You're right about that.
Hey.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, does that feel like scene, or do you did?
I think that to me it feels like it's like an end of scene.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I do want to check in if either of you want to use your role in this to make another prediction or to kind of give us a brief spotlight of what we're seeing in terms of the people.
A question about the roads. You only get one per crossroad, so do you get multiple?
You get so you can show us like how the people's approach to things or feelings about things change. You can show us different things, what they're concerned about. So you can do that multiple times. You can do that both during the scene, or you can also do it during your reaction. And then for the predictions, you can build up a big set of predictions.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, and we may want to hold off on that because one of the things is in terms of when you especially you all have kind of told us something about how the people are feeling. You expressed some of that during the scene. So that is, you said that people were worried about there being remaining people who were allied with the warlock, right? The Archmage.
I think what I was kind of getting at is maybe like that maybe the people maybe like the poor people, the people who maybe like part of the kingdom before the Archmage took over, maybe they're still afraid that the wizard might do something that the regime isn't over yet. I feel like that's I've
Okay.
been a little bit that. And I'm not making any emotions or thought process for potential loyalists. We're talking about maybe people in the poorer areas because I feel like Kietvar would hang around in the poorer areas after the fall, because I don't think they would be really welcomed so much in maybe the better parts where there will probably be more soldiers of the liberators and stuff.
Okay. Darius, did you want to add another prediction or two?
Yes. Can I add a somewhat contradictory prediction?
Absolutely.
So no? Okay. Yeah, what I was thinking is that if she's not killed, executed, probably it will be a sign for the loyalists still around that there is space for them in the future politics. And that will result in more discontent for the people.
Okay.
I will also just like to say is that I know that in the first scene, Donut said that Ellie has heard that people like the Visible, and I don't really want to contradict that. So I think maybe my proposal to also Donut, if you like, is that perhaps Ellie, as kind of the spearhead of the revolution, the figurehead, has maybe like spent more time around the upper class of the city, and they maybe like have a better opinion of the wizard because they probably had maybe like a bit better conditions under the archmage, so it doesn't contradict with Ketat's or the poorer people don't see this as a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
what
I
you do
think
not.
that tracks completely for me.
Okay. So the next thing is does Darius, by default, we check a box on the crossroads unless we think that something big has occurred there. So we'll put a check on that. We do reactions to that scene if we need to. Is there anything, Kethvar, that you want to do as a reaction to the scene we just had?
I don't think Ketat has a reaction. Like they said everything they had to about the situation.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that there is going to be a bit. We've got Valdo, my artificer, is like questions are being asked around from his perspective about it, what has the vizier still got in their up their sleeve? Like, do they have items? Do they have magic that's there? Like, what is the possibility? Um, and I do want to kind of add a prediction from that here that I think if they are executed, uh, there's wild magic artifacts still essentially floating out there that the vizier knew where they were, and that executing them kind of removes somebody who might know how to defuse them.
I think maybe one other reaction would be not from a Ketat maybe, but from Script, my manual NPC.
Okay.
I think Script, like being a merchant dealing like in various transactions in the black market, but also in the regular market, has heard the news about the vizier's potential execution. And like the only thing that I mind is, would they bury her with her valuables?
Okay.
How much could I make of that? Like just doing like a rough like calculus, but it's kind of like the camera pans out and sees that Script has no idea how to do math at all. And it's kind of like a wonder how she has a successful business.
I dig it. Donna, do you have a reaction you want to do that scene with either of your characters?
I mean, I guess the reaction maybe is just a natural kind of Ellie working things out, what her approach is going to be. And I think maybe building up towards the next scene I'm going to set is like she is actually deciding to like have a trial. So it's like I think maybe the reaction is her pushing back on the general, making the demand, saying, "I'm not going to kill someone just because you demand it," right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the setup reaction.
Excellent. We got our check on the crossroads there. Cathvar, we'll come to you for your chance to call a scene.
That would be a good scene. I think we'll see Kate like going to the blue pool. Kind of like the whole. This was like an area that the an area where the archmage like did some of their work. And I see that perhaps Kate like maybe like knows this area kind of maybe a bit more intimately, because I think maybe this is kind of like the area where some of like the like Khmer like soldiers were created. So he's like they're going back like to their place like rebirth, kind of just like contemplating the like growing influence of like these foreign forces on the city and what does that spell for its future.
And who do you want to have that scene with, and kind of what's the setup here?
I think it probably a scene with Squaw
Okay.
and the setup. I think perhaps this is like in the middle of the night, like Ketan has just like left mysterious office, kind of just like wanders the streets a bit until they like subconsciously, like I think, made it to the blue pool and just like looking about. I think like that's also how they got there. For Squaw, I think I'm gonna leave it to you if maybe Squaw was already dead for some reason, or if she also just kind of came here for some other reason.
I think if it's okay with you, I think that Skoa has kind of come down here for inspiration. Has her 9-string lute with big metal strings on it, and is there in there because this particular chamber has great reverb and echo, and it makes things significantly louder. So I think that she is playing, but comes to an abrupt stop when she sees you, Kethvar.
Don't pay any mind, just continue playing. It was soothing.
Nah, I think that's okay. I think I've gotten my sound of this. Um, what are you doing here?
Taking a stroll down memory lane while contemplating the future.
I see. And what kind of future are you contemplating, Master Kethvar?
You do not need to add such a title to my name. I am but just a soldier. Was just a soldier.
Well, just a soldier doesn't seem like an accurate summation of one of the elite soldiers for the Archmage. And I've heard it said someone who acted as part of the secret police. Correct me
Semantics.
if I'm incorrect.
I simply did as I was told. The rest are just semantics for semantics' sake.
You say that, but that doesn't answer my question. Whether in fact you did do those things. That is a different question from I was told to do it. Were you an elite soldier? Were you part of the secret police?
That was the position given it to me, and I tried to live up to it to the best of my abilities.
Would it be all right if I took that as a yes?
If you wish.
Then I will. Where do you go from here, Kethvar?
Well, indeed. As far as I can see, the kingdom I once served is dead and gone. I am but a soldier with no master, no land to protect. So I'll just go where the wind carries me.
What a
I don't see.
poetic way to put that.
I would suspect that a bard such as yourself would maybe appreciate this sentiment.
Does everybody get off free and clear like you do? Or just a few people get to walk away from this?
Well, people can people can choose to walk away. Whether they successfully do so or not is usually up to other forces. I make no predictions that I'll actually get out of all this alive. I can be optimistic, but seeing the growing pressures on this kingdom, there's a chance there won't be any place for me here, and I'll have to make my do somewhere else.
I think she stands up, kind of putting her guitar back in its case, and she'll stop and she will turn and she will say, "You said you were just a soldier, but that was the most political of answers that you could have given. I'll leave you to contemplate the pool." And I think that Skoa will walk away at that point.
I think maybe perhaps before the school gets out of earshot, Get will just say, I hope to hear your masterpiece when it's finished.
I think she pauses to say something, but just lets that one go. I do think I'm going to make a prediction here. I think that, let me look at these crossroads again. I think that if we don't deal with the Archmage, I think we've got the people threatening outside. I think we've established that, and that's something we haven't kind of put on the thing. So I do think that if we don't execute the Archmage, forces outside will cause some deaths. I think that there's a threat hanging over, if that seems reasonable to folks.
Did you mean the Vizier?
Yeah. Essentially, if we don't execute the Vizier, then there's going to be forces outside who are going to cause problems. Do that in the most generic way. So now we get a chance to do reactions to that scene between Skoa and Kethvar. Ellie, do you have a reaction you want to do there?
I wonder if we get a snippet of a scene where, like, in an unnamed tavern or maybe like the bar at the theater or something like this, we see Ellie and Skoa, and maybe like fresh off the back of this encounter, Skoa like has some advice or thoughts to give to Ellie, and Ellie is like, I don't want to hear it.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to drink.
I like it. Desdarius, anything you want to add as a reaction there?
Yes, I was just picturing this short vignette of Desiderius coming home, and probably so small nobility, big house, and probably there's an old caretaker, and he talks for a moment with them, and trying to get a feeling of what's in people's mind, and then he retires.
Excellent. Kethvar?
I think perhaps after Skoa leaves, Get will maybe like find like a nice place to kind of sit and kind of just like paddle about. Maybe like what could have been like if they weren't like drafted like as a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Could they have like found something to do with their life instead of just going with the flow as they basically have for the entire life?
I like that. I like that. I imagine from my reaction for Skoa that there's a bit of sort of the afterwards of that previous scene of her going, "Oh, I should have said this." Oh, like really frustrated. Like, oh, I had a great comeback. I didn't say it. Oh, I should have said that, and kind of mad at myself for not saying something incredibly clever at that point. Um, Kethvar, are you good with putting a check on the crossroads? Does it feel like that moves that
Yes, I am.
forward? Okay. So I get to call a scene. Um, I would like to do a scene with Skoa and Ellie there. I do think that it is maybe after the bar, like after the drinking has been done, uh, when things have gotten quieter there, and maybe have moved past Ellie's not wanting to talk about things to Skoa, kind of leaning over, kind of moving the various empty mugs and things off the table, and Skoa says, "I'm really worried um about some of the other people who need to be pardoned if we pardon the Vizier, Ellie."
Um,
Like there's a heroic story to be told about the Vizier. I mean, about why the Vizier did this, about why the Vizier turned against their boss. Like, I mean, I don't know. Is that a romance story? Is that a selfish story? I don't know. There's a great story to be told there, but then there's some others.
it's funny. It's funny. I'm sure if you talk to, the archmage's torturer, you'll find some nuggets that you might be able to spin into an interesting story. But I, I'm not sure I care.
Not sure you care about their story, or not sure you care whether they're set free, chosen one.
Well, I don't care why they did the things they did. Like, whatever story they tell us is just going to be self-serving, right?
It is. So how are you deciding? How much do we weigh the sword-wielding fierceness of the elite soldier versus the sort of calm bureaucratic malaise of the former mayor? Do both of them go free? Does one go free versus the other?
I don't want to make a rule that we have to apply to everyone. I think we can, like, take them as individuals. Like, what did and obviously for the mayor character you're referring to, I know exactly who you're talking to. I have no idea who this soldier is.
Right.
Um, for Darius, like, what did he actually do? Like, did he order the deaths of people? Did he, not to make it all about me, order my assassination? Try to assassinate me? Or would you just keep his head down and try to make it out alive? I don't know.
No, I know I put you on the spot. I just I feel bad that it's easier for me if it's execution, because that song is a little bloodier and people like blood.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, my current thought process, I don't know whether you want to be there or not, is to actually try her for crimes against, you know, the city and the world. Because, well, I'm not going to kill her just because some general outside says she's guilty and we need blood. I want to kill her for something specific, if that doesn't make me sound like a monster.
I don't know if it does or not. I think that's enough of the black and the white and the gray for me that I can't say whether it is or not.
Well, I apologize for the mess this will make of your song.
That feels like a good scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, does Darius, do you have a reaction you want to do to that?
Um, Maybe I'd add a scene with name Oswald, the usher.
Okay.
We see them for a moment, um, taking some notes and arranging these notes in a forgotten drawer in a forgotten room in the halls,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Okay.
So adding some mystery.
Kethvar, anything you want to add as a reaction to that last bit?
I think I don't think that I will see like any like reaction for Ketvar. I think Ketvar will be adjusted tired to a quiet area just to like get some shot at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think perhaps for Skrit, I think maybe like she was like in the bar as well, like after like a hard day's work in the bar, kind of like drinking away. Maybe like overheard the conversation between Square and Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we should just like ponder like, is this information worth anything?
Interesting. Offering info out. And Ellie, anything you want to do as a reaction?
Not for Ellie, but I wonder if Farak or Librarian, we see them visit the home of Ashara to recover the items out on loan. you know, a bit of housekeeping, um, and maybe that is in itself like a signal of how the librarian thinks things are going to go.
Absolutely. And I imagine that there is like a parallel scene to that we do see Skoa having held off, having gotten all the testimony from other people, meeting with the vizier to get their version of the story, potentially for what is coming. I don't think I have any new predictions yet. Uh, it does bring us back to Ellie, Donna, for you to call another scene. And potentially, if you check the Crossroads box after this, then we'll go to resolve this particular problem.
Yeah. I wonder if this is the promised trial itself. And I think it's a big enough deal, and I'm sure everyone can be there, whether it's officially or snuck in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is. It seems like it should be like quasi-public, and maybe, um, maybe it's in the town square, which opens out onto Gallows Gate, which is
Okay.
maybe just where justice was done in the city, um, which maybe is a kind of um, anyone who's been here before for the Archmage's reign is like, this is a terrifying place to be brought to,
Okay.
right? Because it means one thing. It only means one thing.
Do you think the Vizier has been brought out here, or is the Vizier locked down in the dungeons or still under house arrest?
I think the Vizier has been brought
Okay.
into the dock or whatever the structure is.
Okay. So who do you want to start the scene engaged with? Minor or major?
Um, I I mean, I maybe this is like a particular moment in the trial.
Sure.
So like there has been an appeal for witnesses for like a list of crimes, and there have been people coming out of the woodwork, people who have a grudge to bear, people whose families were imprisoned or tortured or whatever, all sorts. And I wonder if there's like is there a crime maybe for which Kethvar received an order from directly from the Vizier to do some horrible thing, right? And I'll leave it up to Dom to decide whether Kethvar did that or not. But the order, the intent of the Vizier was like clearly monstrous in this regard, right? And I wonder what kind of testimony Kethvar would give if they show up, or what their thoughts are when they hear one of their squad mates give evidence against the Vizier. I don't know how we're gonna play it.
I think like if Kessel was like called out to give testimony, Kessel would have shown up. I guess maybe my question is, do we think that the order that the Vizier gave was an order that she proposed, or was it like an let me rephrase that. We think that the order that Vizier get is like an order that was kind of like what's the word? Like allowed by the Archmage, or is this something that the Archmage kind of like said, maybe like the Vizier not to do, but the Vizier just decided to do it anyways?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, like, is that clear to Kethvar as a person? Like, when they receive an order, have they been told it comes from the Archmage, or is it like, oh, this is just the Vizier doing their own thing? Like,
I think for Kethvar it would be like, even if the order didn't come from the Archmage, they would follow it. But like if Kethvar knows like, hey, this order kind of goes against something that the Archmage has previously stated, then Kethvar would probably not follow the order, but would probably like report back to the Archmage about what was happening.
yeah. I mean, I guess the middle ground, right, is that the Vizier gives an order which, if they ask the Archmage, he would probably approve of, but he hasn't mentioned it. The Vizier is just going on their own authority, right? There's this.
So I imagine this is the legalese we're actually probably hearing at the trial is people splitting hairs and lawyers and stuff kind of going back and forth on who gave the order and what do we actually know.
Yeah, in that case, I think Kethvar would follow the order. So I think at the trial we see Kethvar giving the testimony about the various things that they have like done under the Vizier's command. And imagine like it doesn't paint her in too much of a good light.
Yeah. I mean, I also wonder, there's, do we see other people in the audience, like people from your unit, Ketfar, who like who would echo what you say, or maybe who are annoyed that you're, you know, betraying their their role or their cause, as it were. I don't know how I guess how does your testimony resonate amongst the audience is my question.
I think maybe like against like the former squad mates, I think it probably wouldn't resonate too well. I think maybe like the like former like elite soldiers would probably be like loyalists because they've gained a lot of power and kind of authority through their like rank in the like Archmage's arena. So I think they will probably be displeased with Kieta just going like, oh no, yeah, we did this, we did that. Like just nonchalantly.
Mm-hmm.
As for the populace, I think I don't have to think this will maybe like get a lot of them to just not like call for the blood, call for the like the head of the vizier, because imagine that a lot of these crimes were quite severe.
If I may,
Yeah,
I,
go
I
ahead.
would like after we see that testimony and the people think, I think that SCOA will stand to essentially gesture to speak on behalf of the criminal.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, uh, Grand Dame Ellie, with apologies, if I may have a moment to speak.
You're witness to some of the accused crimes.
I have spoken to the accused, and I have spoken to many of the people who were here. It is without a doubt incontrovertible that without the actions of the vizier, it would have taken us much longer to have taken the city. We know that we have as an accepted fact that the only reason that there's any question here is the service that she provided. I have asked her repeatedly why she changed her mind, why she acted to aid the downfall of her master, but she refuses to say. And I think there's something there. She could speak in her own defense, I'm sure quite elegantly, but she refuses to, and I do not know what to make of that. But I fear that that executing the vizier will make her a martyr for what comes next, and a scapegoat. Not a scapegoat, but a thing of blame to hang around your neck in any future failures. That's not so much witness as statement. And I'll bow and sit down. I'll add that as a prediction.
Um, I wonder if do we think Desiderius could be a witness in terms of knowing how much personal gain the vizier has gotten, or, you know, was she raking it in, or was she just keeping her head down insofar as that is possible in her position? I wonder if Desiderius could witness
Yeah.
those facts.
I was thinking not only Desiderius, but other government officials and other, people managing the everyday life in the city. They probably testify that what Good has done, it was because of the huge administrative wheel. And so they managed to hold here and there the consequences of the decrees and actions of the vizier. So basically, in their testimony, in the testimony of these officials, she was actually with the Archmage, so she was evil. But of course, we won't know if they're saying that just to get themselves in a better spot, or that's actually what happened. So did they work in little things to make things better? And then she exploited these things to saying, see, my administration was, there were good things. So yeah, I guess all these class, so to speak, all these political class will probably testify against her.
Interesting. Do you want to put a cap on that scene, Ellie?
Yeah,
and then we'll
I
move
think
to reactions.
Yeah, I think that probably closes the scene. I mean, I wonder if I should just make my power move now so that people can react to that, to give people a bit more
Well, in a
grist
sec,
for
well,
the mill.
the choice will be made when we do the crossroads here in a moment. So
Okay.
so don't make the decision yet.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's have you put a kind of a feather in that scene, and then we'll do a quick reactions to the trial, and then we'll go to the crossroads where we'll kind of see what you chose.
Okay.
What like how do we see Ellie? Like, what's her reaction to all of this during the trial?
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe if maybe some people, some people who have been with her through this war will recognize the look in her face. Maybe it's the look in her face before she was first over the wall of this city to take it, or through a postern gate that the vizier had opened. Not that it wasn't dangerous, but the kind of look of bloody resolve is recognizable to people on her side.
Nice.
This is gonna hurt.
Okay. I think Skoa is kind of busily writing down things, trying to figure out how to spin this trial in the best possible way for the minimum amount of damage, and trying to work out that. Cathvar?
I think Kieslich is going to kind of like just look forward and just like ponder to themselves, like no matter like the outcome of this trial, turbulent waters are up ahead, and Ketil is wondering how will they settle and will they make it to the other side once they do.
Nice. Desdarius?
I think we see Desiderius with a group of fellow officials discussing the trial and the possible consequences with this atmosphere of suspect. between each other.
Attention, paranoia there.
Yes.
Okay. So we come to the crossroad here. Assuming Ellie puts the check in the box, that'll be the fifth check on that. We know that there's a choice. Either the vizier gets executed or something else happens. That's the binary choice there. So you're the only power player, Ellie. So you get to say what happens.
Yeah, so I think I have a couple of ideas of other things I want to happen as well as the main thing, but you she is going to execute the vizier.
Okay. So yes, the
Yes,
vizier
yeah,
is executed. So now, once that decision is made, and we'll get a chance to kind of go around and talk our reactions to this. We're going to go through the predictions, and we check for each one if this comes true or not. So, Desdarius, your first prediction was they'll be discontent about the amount of bloodshed, and they will degrade trust in government. Does that come to pass?
It's just Michael. So I decide if it comes to pass or not.
Yes.
I think it.
Actually,
No, I think
let
it
me
passes.
pause you here just 1 second, actually.
Yeah.
Because I do think, Ellie, give us the context. Like, what is said by Ellie in this, and how is that done? Like so that we can better frame our thing. I apologize.
yeah.
I moved forward too fast.
So I think the context is that like with I guess the thing is that everything that's been said is pretty damning. Really, there's like this. Oh, maybe she'll become a martyr, and this is what she really wants to further the plans. Okay, Ellie like says sure. And I think like her attempting to be political about it is saying like all of the money, the land, the goods that the vizier has squeezed out is going to be returned to the public good. So like the mansion and the gardens and the bathhouse are like made into a public hospital or something like this. But yeah, at the end of the day, for Ellie, it is an act of bloody justice, but only one, and this is now the bar you have to pass. So she is framing it as something that's not going to be on demand by fiat, just an act of justice, even though it's what was demanded. So not that she isn't going to be a martyr or anything like that, or there
Right.
might be distrust, but that is like Ellie's kind of sense of how to do things.
Darius, what do you think about that prediction then?
So I had more time to think about it, and I think it will come to pass.
Okay.
So it will be true because people forget pretty fast. And so the idea that she helped, but then she was executed, will be present in some people's minds. And so we will need some action to regain this trust, I guess.
Excellent. And then the second prediction on the yes side is mine, and absolutely, definitely. There will be wild magical artifacts, things that the vizier knew how to decommission and diffuse that, absent the vizier, will still be floating around in the city. But I don't think she becomes a martyr. I think her lack of speaking up, her lack of defense, uh, 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 you know, uh, made her not a object of sympathy, but perhaps a perception of arrogance in that. thing. And I think that certainly Skoa probably leans into that particular narrative to keep her from becoming a martyr. If that seems cool with everybody. And then the question is, tell us how your character feels about how everything has happened, and that's how the kingdom feels about it.
That's for me, the touchstone.
That's for you, the touchstone. Yeah. Do you think they agree,
Okay.
disagree? Like, what's a reaction to this?
I think that they largely agree because they heard testimonies, they all saw or heard about it, that the wizard did not defend herself, did not like counter anything. So I think became clear to everyone that yeah, her execution was inevitable. It had to happen. It probably are like some people probably aren't too happy because they see that it, as was mentioned, uh, she helped bring down the Nazi regime, but perhaps without her, it would still be going, and they like paid her back by killing her. So I think like there will be like Dutch ways of preparation, possibly those with more power to them that probably would not be satisfied with this conclusion, so to say. But they probably like, cannot like really voice that due to how the actual trial went.
Mm-hmm.
I do think on the flip side, a lot of people are also going to be kind of glad that this very obviously like powerful magician is also kind of like gone as well.
Okay. So at the end, you get to choose. If we had checks on the crisis marker, if you thought that this quelled that, you could remove them. But you can also, if you think it maybe has unsettled the kingdom, you can add one or two checks to the crisis track if you want. What do you think? How do you want to rate this?
I think like maybe just for status, I think I might not add one because I think like this action is going
Okay.
to like displease the loyalists,
Okay.
and it's going to
Absolutely.
maybe I think it's like it is going to displease them. Like they are going to work like perhaps in other ways. Maybe they were banking on the wizard surviving,
Mm-hmm.
but now that she's dead, they need to like go down after that Venus, and those might be more drastic.
Okay. Do you want to give us a brief reaction scene of Cathvar in the aftermath of all of this?
So I guess my question is like, how is the wizard executed? Is it like a guillotine, or is it something else?
I mean, how did the Archmage execute the guilty? Was it like put up in a gibbet or tortured, or what was the approach, do you think?
I imagine it had to be something magical, quite honestly. Like if they were put in a gibbet or whatever, they were hit with a magic curse or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think Ellie is going to insist on doing it herself, with her sword or something like that.
Okay.
So just a beheading.
Yeah, something classic.
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, so I think
Like
in that case, like in the scene we see Keta possibly like in the front rows, like positioned in a way that you can like maybe like staring like the vizier like as she's going to be like beheaded, like that. They make like eye contact in. I think Keta being like in like the elite unit, like did have like a contact with the vizier. And I think maybe like the elite unit maybe like had a way to kind of like communicate magically, so to say. And I think like Keta like in different moments before the execution would just kind of like directly like say to the wizard. This is it's on your downfall. It wasn't your various crimes. It wasn't your greed. It was simply because you were Archdated. Archdater's death was waiting for you.
Interesting. I imagine we see Skoa maybe a few days later, and I think we see that she has sheafs of documents, clearly details of her conversation with the vizier, like a good sheaf of those, and she's going through them, and I think we see her throw those in the fireplace. Desdarius, what do we see as a reaction shot for you?
I think we see Desiderius still being a bit worried and with this atmosphere of suspect towards his fellow officials. But he trusts Ellie, and so we see him, for example, spreading the good words, so to speak, saying it's a good decision, a difficult decision, and talking with the people and talking with the other officials.
And Ellie?
I mean, this might be like half an hour after that when she has retreated back into the hall of summons and we see her cleaning and sharpening the sword, and then an usher brings in the next item of business, and it's repair of the aqueduct or something like this.
Excellent. So that's where we're going to stop. Next time we'll be another Crossroads. Given the time span, I expect we'll probably get through 2 more Crossroads, just kind of knowing how this is. That'll be my guess. We'll kind of take up a little bit later. And I would like to do a quick stars and wishes for next time. Dom, can I start with you on that?
Right, okay, so stars for me, I think starts for all the players, for the for obviously running the game, facilitating the game, and teaching us like how to go through it in a good manner that was easy to understand. I enjoyed like Scott's character and how she basically like just an inspiration and work in everything as the events transpire, just to like turn it into like for us songs that can be passed down to future. Enjoyed seeing like Ellie in the whole that she's like the leader that perhaps never really wanted to have said authority, but now has it and has to make the hard choices and see and like hope that she's making that decision. Like I thought perhaps seeing like the decisions she's going to make and the pushback she might get, because she did have like pushbacks on both sides of we shouldn't kill her, we should kill her, some various characters. And it was like funny, interesting seeing like how she processed like all of this information and kind of came down to a consensus of let's just have a trial and see how that goes, instead of just picking one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I did enjoy it. Said this is just how to say it, kind of the whole political official manner that he presented everything with. Like it just like it is a matter of fact. As for the wishes, I think my wishes, I think the only two I have is that we maybe see a bit more of the minor NPCs show up. Maybe we can have them appear in like some scenes more often than just being potentially actions. And I think, quick question: do these scenes have to be limited to like just like 2 characters, or can they be more?
They could be more.
Yeah, so I think perhaps maybe also like have scenes where more than just 2 characters are present.
Mm-hmm.
In this, we said the final trial we had basically just 2-on-2 scenes, and I didn't mind it because they like made sense. Why only like those 2 characters were present in that scene. And I think maybe like for the next session, I think I would maybe like to see a bit more play of 3 characters, for example, in a scene, and a bit more of the minor ones appearing as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll do my stars and wishes next. I like the breadth of the characters that we came up with, like that the between the major and minor characters, we hit a lot of different notes, and I really like that. The mayor is so interesting, especially kind of how you framed up the bond for him. I like that. Going with our Joan of Arc character is really brave, Donna. I like that a lot, and Kethvar's kind of being borderline, maybe we ought to execute him, kind of thing is a really interesting move to make. So great character stuff all around. Wishes. I hope I can make it more natural to use the role powers for everybody. Like that's always the hard part, is knowing when you should pull those out or not. So I hope I can moderate that a little bit better. Um, just Darius.
Yeah. I second what you just said about the characters. So they're very interesting. I like the bonds, the relationship. I like the scenes that we had. So it's difficult to pinpoint something specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But I really loved also the reactions. So seeing something happening after and also in the background. That's very interesting. And I also want to give a star in general to everyone, because we dropped on this subject of political trial, which is not so easy. But it came out a very interesting and fascinating fiction. And for wishes, so for sure, what's going on with the artifacts,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing more, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's certainly fair. Absolutely. Yeah, the artifact, I as soon as I saw that, I was like, ooh, okay. Dana, I'm gonna do the last word here.
Yeah, I think most people have hit on my stars for sure. I love the breadth of the characters we have. They're all so different, and like not just different characters, but in a very different situation. Even though we created the setting together, and that really adds to the richness of the game for me. Um, I just want to highlight the scene that we had between Cathfar and Skoa in the deep pool. That was fantastic, And who doesn't like a l'esprit de l'escalier, right? The thing you wish you said. I guess the bard gets the final word, right? Though. And wishes, yeah. I just want to see more of these characters, and I think mixing up the kind of natural pairings that we've had so far would be good. So yeah, interested to see how badly this goes for Ellie.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I know we went over a bit. I am going to stop the recording now. Let's see here.